And I think last year we saw some of that in your first year at Georgia Tech. You get huge wins. Obviously you weren't consistent, but you're trying to rebuild this program. Why? Why do you think I'm going to be right on this and you're going to be the exception? You grinded it out. You didn't make any money when you started at Rice as a volunteer. You were an assistant at Arizona, assistant at Memphis. You paid your dues. A lot of these dudes, I won't say them by name, we know who they are, didn't pay their dues like you did.
I think I would say the first thing I did, in coaching was I wanted to really learn the total facet of what it took to be a head coach in college. It was a little bit different. So I was at Rice with Ben Braun, and I owe a lot to Ben Braun because he let me start off slow, but then it was like, well, can I come into your office and see what a day-to-day look like? What do you actually do? Because it's way more than obviously basketball coaching. And so as I went along and I even went going to the pros, Johnny Davis, I owe him a lot. Really? Most people wouldn't know this. He took me in his office, he closed his door, and he like, man, start diagramming plays. Like there's just a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things to this that nobody talks about. So then when I get to Memphis, Josh taught me the paperwork part.
Right.
How to cross your T's and dot your I's and do different things. Sean Miller taught me how to form a practice, how to, hold people accountable. Yep. Real negotiable, non-negotiable type. Like you see what I'm saying? So I learned and I seen all these different things, and so you have to, it's so much more to this than just what people see at 7 o'clock. And I learned all those things, and so as I put staffs together, I kind of formed the way I wanted to be, not only as a coach, but what I wanted with my staff and everything. And I think the biggest thing in coaching, and I always say this, know your strengths, man, and don't try to be somebody you're not. Yep. I think what happens a lot of times, is if you hear somebody and they have this tag as a recruiter, they want to show people they can coach. Then you got somebody that, he's known as a coach, they want to show people they can recruit. You have to be able to not have an ego. And coming back around this second time here at Georgia Tech, those 2 years at Boston were the most invaluable years of my coaching career because I was around a great front office, I was around great coaches, and I was around great players. So in Boston, it was totally different. So now, man, you just got to be on point, period.
Sure.
Because there's an expectation that everybody has, and all these things and how I learned it, has brought me to where I'm at today at Tech.
I always find it interesting whenever you have guys that were exceptional ball players, a long NBA career, great player at Arizona, how they're able to relate to some of these young college kids, because that's an adjustment. You go from the Celtics to Georgia Tech, where the Celtics are the Celtics, win World Championship last year. You go to Georgia Tech, now you're integrating what you want them to do. How has that been when you're kind of splitting between, like, I'm the former player, I was a badass, and now I have to try to get my knowledge into those? Is it difficult? It's more difficult at the college level, I would assume. How's that been going?
I think that as a head coach, I learned to not take things personal as a former player when somebody didn't know because they don't know.
Sure.
And so when they don't know, you got to teach them. And so you have to take your time. Some guys are different in terms of learning. You know what I mean? Some guys learn fast, some guys learn slow. But you have to learn how to articulate it. You got to learn how to get on the floor and show them. But, again, to me, you got to have everybody involved. I don't feel like you can have success as a coach if you don't use your staff.
Absolutely.
And so if you don't use your staff,
there's too much you got to do.
It's just too much. It's too much to do.
Sure.
Like there's too much to do. Like right now, I have 5 GAs, and I probably have one of the bigger staffs in the country. Matter of fact, I seen somebody wrote an article. I have a big staff.
Yeah.
And I have a big staff on purpose because everybody plays a role. And I want everybody to be really good in their role. And again, that's what I took from Boston. When I was in Boston, everybody was really good in their role, and that's why we were good on the floor.
So you get Nathan back, you get Bay back, which is about as much continuity as you could probably ask for in college basketball in 2024. And you guys had moments last season. You beat Duke, you beat Carolina, you beat the Clemson Tigers. That's 3 Sweet 16 teams. But, you know, it was rough in the middle of the season. I think you were 14 and 18 last year. Where do you find that consistency from? How do you get to stay at that top level for an entire season?
Well, I think we got great additions, but the biggest thing for me with the consistency is starting practice with the habits. And so are we going to be able to sustain success, but are we going to be able to get it back after failure? And I think that's the biggest thing that I've tried to preach to the team all summer and through the first couple of weeks of practice. And, you know, that they'll tell you that that's the biggest thing for me. It's easy when it's going well. It is. And as a coach, you know, being that I played, you don't want the inconsistency. So I have to bring them down to earth. You know, in practices, they aren't fun all the time, but I think one of the biggest things from them is mentally, it's the approach. But we had to be in better condition. Like, one thing that bothered me is crazy, because one thing that bothered me last year, because I'm really big on fitness myself, we wasn't in shape. And there's a lot of different things that go into that, but I feel like we're so much more ahead of what we were from a fitness standpoint, from an in-shape standpoint. I think that we'll be better just from that, because when you get tired, your mind controls your body, and you can't allow your body and their bodies were controlling their minds, and I think that was a lot for us when we weren't playing well. And so the consistency, the leadership, where's our leadership going to come from? Those are things that I'm looking for, because it can't be myself and the coaching staff enforcing all the things. Somebody has to take ownership of the locker room, and I'm still looking for that.
You have 4 guys here in peak physical condition, so if you need help getting your team ready, you let us know, okay?
Sure. You know, one thing that you said over the summer was, one of the guys who's here today, Kawasi Reeves, you said he does things the right way.
Yeah.
How so?
I think Wace is like the consummate student athlete in a day where you don't really look at it like that. You know, there's so many different things. There's agendas. There's sense of entitlements. And, you know, the only thing he's allowed me to do with him from day one is coach him. He's become a really good three-point shooter. He worked on his body. He's been really good with his leadership so far. I challenged him to get in better shape. He's gotten better shape. And so he just does a lot of things that are kind of old school to me. And when I look at him, I see consistency. He had up and downs, but he's been consistent with his emotions throughout. And so that's the thing that I'm looking for. And we have to be even keeled in this, man. And not so many highs and not too many of these lows. It just got to be consistency.
You know, you talked about your team in shape. You're probably better shape than all those dudes, aren't you? I mean, look at you. You could still get out there. I'm telling you, you could still get out there now and probably put up double figures.
Now, my goal has always been to look the part at my age. I definitely can't get out there anymore. Not the way those knees feel those first 500 steps of the day.
Oh, I know. Well, while Dauster was eating donuts this morning, you were on the treadmill.
Can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that. You got to leave them donuts alone. One day a week. One day a week. One day a week.
I'm not a donuts guy. It's more like the late night pizza. That's the thing that gets me.
I get it.
That's the thing that gets me.
Damon, give me quickly your greatest Jason Tatum story. Was there? You got anything really good? Because you were raving to me before the season that Derek White had 2 years ago. Yeah. You were raving to me that he was going to have that year. You got anything good on Tatum that we can rip on him for?
You know what? I don't have nothing on Jason. But what I do have, or what I will say about him, and I appreciate about it, it was everybody, but it was him that I think he set a tone, him and JB, but routine. Let me tell y'all something. Routine. He was the same. You know, he would come in the morning, he would eat the same thing, he would go down, he would go lift weights, we'd go through practice. He had his routine after practice, he got his shots, he watched film, he got on the table, he watched film while he was getting worked on, he come back at night, he shot. Like the routine of him, like, it's not surprising, like, who he is and who he's become as a player. Like none of the things that have happened since I left, I knew it was gonna happen. I just left. You know, I had an opportunity. But I told Jeff, like, everybody would always say, man, what's going on? I'm like, I never seen a more, honestly, I never seen a more together group. From what I was perceived, I was walking through the door, and he was a big part of that, and I thought he did a great job of interjecting himself into everybody. But that routine that he had and allowing people to coach him, how many guys could coach a superstar at that level the way he allowed the coach? So between the routine and the coachability, man, it was. I don't have a good story, but that story right there should resonate.
Great stuff. It's a great story. And Damon, best of luck in year two. There's excitement around Georgia Tech basketball. It's because of what you're doing. We appreciate the time.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
That's Damon
Thanks, Damon.
Stoudamire.